Ich habe hier an dieser Stelle vor 7 Jahren eine kleine Geschichte erzählt und ich möchte sie nochmal wiederholen, weil sie perfekt zum Thema passt, das wir jetzt beginnen. Wir beginnen jetzt mit dem Blog Instant Payments. Meine Frau hatte dazumals auf Ricardo ein Produkt ersteigert und sie ist am Morgen früh aufgeregt zu mir gekommen und sagte, wenn du heute bis 10 Uhr den Betrag an den Verkäufer überweist, dann kann er mir das heute absenden, dann habe ich es morgen. Dann habe ich gesagt, ich habe keine Ahnung, ob das funktioniert bis 10 Uhr. Und dann hat sie gesagt, ja, wieso funktioniert denn das nicht? Und ich habe es dann gemacht und ich hatte das Glück, dass die Auftraggeber und die Senderbank tatsächlich gearbeitet hat und online war zu dieser Zeit. Hatte Glück, dass es nicht ein Wochenende war und es war tatsächlich in ein paar Minuten hat das funktioniert. Aber es ist ein schönes Beispiel für mich zu sehen, dass offenbar das Bedürfnis da ist und das Verständnis, warum es dann Stunden oder Tage geht, wenn bis eine Zahlung ankommt, eigentlich bei den normalen Leuten gar nicht da ist. Und ich rede mit einer Frau nicht täglich über Payments zu Hause. Und das passiert einfach. Jetzt Instant Payment ist das Thema. In der EU ist es bereits seit 5 Jahren Realität. Hat sich in den Ländern durchaus unterschiedlich entwickelt. Und wir haben heute mit einem niederländischen Vertreter tatsächlich ein Land da, das Vorreiter in diesem Bereich ist, was Instant Payments anbelangt. Es freut mich deshalb sehr, dass Jos van Wijk hier ist. Jos van Wijk ist Senior Product Consultant der Dutch Payment Association und er wird uns darüber berichten, wie die Situation in den Niederlanden heute ausschaut und was wir da mitnehmen können für uns, was wir lernen können. Please, Jos, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you, Boris. Very nice to be here in Switzerland on this stage. I'm going to do a presentation about instant payments, where we are at the moment in the Netherlands with instant payments. Instant payments, die neue Normalität, wo steht die Niederlande heute? And I'm very happy to be here. I was involved in the instant payments program in the Netherlands from the start. We started out in 2015 and we went live in 2019. So we have a bit of experience now, and I'm happy to tell you something about that. Let's start with some information about the Netherlands. The Netherlands is a small country, 17 million people. We love to have our credit cards and debit cards mostly. 31 million debit cards, 6 million credit cards. We use them frequently. We use them contactless. We pay a bit more via internet and via our mobiles than average in the European Union. We have a high penetration of internet. We are a bit of a tech-savvy country, as you say that. And when you have a payment account, it's usually with one of the 4 banks in the Netherlands. And you pay something for that, approximately 40 euros a year. And what do you get for that? You get your debit card. You get access to an app, and you get access to internet banking, and you can almost do unlimited amount of transactions of the various payment products in the Netherlands. We also have Ideal, our online banking payment service, very successful also. Do you have to pay extra for your payment account? No, when you want something very extra. So if you want paper account statements, you pay something extra. If you do many ATM withdrawals a year, you got to pay something extra. But that's the basis is enough for, I think, 95% of our customers. We do have paper from some payment orders are initiated via paper. Those are not much. That's less than 1%. We are quite a cashless society. I think 22% of our payments are still in cash. And with that we are in the top 10 of cashless countries in the world. But I think Switzerland is also in this top 10, so we're a bit alike about that. That also gives you discussions. Recent discussions are inclusion of all citizens. They must be able to remain to pay in an for them appropriate way. And of course, you get also the backup system when that's needed when cash is no longer there. And we have also talks about CDBC in our country, of course. That's it for the Netherlands. So how did we start out with instant payments? How did we start? Well, it started out with the Monday morning issue of retailers. As we were becoming more and more a cashless society, the retailers had no direct revenues anymore, and they received their revenues the next business day from the cards, the transactions they made. So they became to get annoyed by that. Why is my money not there when I earn it, when the revenues come in? So in the Dutch Payments Forum, they made that argument. They made an issue there. The Dutch Payments Forum is we work together. We cooperate to make the payments industry more efficient in the Netherlands, and discuss issues like accessibility and so on. So this was the first time, in fact, I heard from instant payments, faster payments, that there was a need for that. And of course, as we also already mentioned, the society changes. People want things right here and right now, especially the millennials under us. Immediately and anywhere, that are key words now. So the Dutch Payments Association, the association where I work for, had promised to draw up a vision statement on that subject. Now, where did we then came up with? Together with the banks, we decided to switch from our normal SCT to a new payment product, the SCT Inst, it's now called, or instant payments. What should it look like for us? We wanted the payments to be executed within 5 seconds, with a maximum of 7 seconds. So 7 seconds is the cutoff time that the transaction will be rejected. We wanted instant availability for the beneficiary. We wanted the payment to be irrevocable, so that goods can be delivered directly. We wanted no cutoff times, so the business can do their business 24/7. And we wanted no maximum amount, so that also the larger companies could do business 24/7. And what's best of all, we had 4 banks that that decided to go for instant payments, and those 4 banks have 95% of the accounts in the Netherlands. So we had a big mass of payments from the start, and they not only said we're going to be reachable for instant payments, but they said we also will go initiating those instant payments. And for two channels in particular, the mobile and the internet banking. And at that time, I think there were 300 million or 400 million of those transactions a year. So you have a big mass of payments on the infrastructure. We had to build that from top off. It's not the same as in Switzerland, where it's more condensed. We had the settlement layer apart, delivered by the Dutch Central Bank and the European Central Bank. We have the clearing layer delivered by Worldline and eBay Clearing. The scheme was more or less designed and built by the banks themselves. And above that we have the service layer. That was not part of our program. That's completely further up to the market. We didn't do anything to promote instant payments or what so on, because then it wouldn't be normal anymore. We treated it as normal as it is. There was also no campaign to introduce instant payments in the Netherlands. It went very smoothly. We realized it in 4 years' time. We started designing that in 2015 and detailing in 2016. At that time there was nothing. There was no rule book. There was no EPC rule book at the time. They started writing that in 2016. Well, that was maybe a bit of a pity for us. All the work we had done all that work, and then there was that scheme. Did we were bothered by that? No. We had done our thinking, so lots of our thinking went into the instant payments rulebook, and we were very happy that, in fact, our original document suite, our original requirements, we had to adjust it on a few points, but not that many. Well, then, of course, a severe testing program started with end-to-end testing, then a tryout, and we went live in the spring of 2019. Again, the requirements, 5 seconds maximum, any amount, always open and instant available. For us, that's for the Netherlands, that's Audacity Inst Plus. For Europe, the EPC scheme has a maximum of 10 seconds and a cut-off time of 20 seconds. And of course, they have a maximum amount. It started with 15,000 euros, and now it's 100,000 euros. And I think that hampers business still a bit. Well, we introduced it for, as I said, mobile banking and online banking via the PC. And that was our promise, and we fulfilled them all. As said, we started with mobile and internet, but we also saw that the infrastructure could be used for other kinds of payments. And we said, well, probably first the other single transactions will be on the instant payment infrastructure. For instance, standing orders. Later on, we expected also bulk payments to be executed via the instant payments infrastructure. But that later on, we started with mobile and internet. On the other hand, there will also be the service layer that was up to the market. So we could expect other service providers making new products that will be used on that infrastructure. One thing our stakeholders said that the introduction should be reduced. It must be smooth. Nothing must go wrong. It must be there, and it must be flawless. So we started in February of 2019 with a tryout with, let's say, 1,000 transactions a day between the banks to try out the system. Was it fast enough? Was it going smoothly? Was everything okay? And then we smoothly scaled up to 10,000 transactions, 100,000 transactions, until we let it all free. And we started, as Dutch Payments Association, together with the banks, the monitoring phase, where we closely monitored what was happening in the system. And then, of course, after that, it was rolled out, and it was business as usual from September 2019 on. What did we learn by that? yeah, you have to cooperate. We have to put all these parties together to build that new mass volume infrastructure and put it out as the new normal. Business value has to be the main driver for that. We have to have the banks go along with it. We had the banks to introduce it, and they must see the business value of that. And in fact, of course, they saw it. Involve stakeholders, secure the buy-in. Yeah, I think it's important that the stakeholders all should know what was coming to them, without putting too much stress on that. And we had very much discussions with our stakeholders. 3 times a year we invited all stakeholders and told them about our progress and told them about our plans, and also discussed what the product would look like, and talked some issues with them. For instance, our tax office, they had in their conditions, when you pay your taxes, you have to pay that on the last working day of the month. Okay, well, what if the last day of the month is a Friday and we have now instant payments and you were paid on that Sunday? Well, in the old situation you would get a fine. So we talked to the tax office, and they say, okay, when you introduce instant payments, we will have changed our conditions, and also payments on the Sunday will be accepted by us as on time. So that's a bit how we involved all our stakeholders and secure the buy-in. Well, of course, you have to deliver as promised and do a good introduction. So where are we now? Here we see the number of instant payments exchanged per month. We are now approximately at 40 million transactions a month. We see a bit of an uptake in the last 3 months. Don't know exactly what's that. Maybe standing orders are used on the infrastructure now by some banks, or some banks use it for bulk payments now. So we see a bit of an uptake, and of course the 99% online and mobile transactions are there, and mostly there mobile is first. This of course excludes the 1.4 billion ideal transactions we have in the Netherlands. But that's something else, but we're a bit proud of that. We also have them. An example of the collaboration of the banks that was very successful in the Netherlands, and that also triggered them to do instant payments together. July 22 compared to July 21 here, we see an increase of 13%. You would expect an incremental rise of about 8%, so the other 5 must be other payments flowing into that the instant payment system. And here you see also the upscaling. In February 2019 we started with about 4,000 payments a month. When you look at the month, in this case it's July 22. At the first of the month we see a peak, and that's from standing orders and from some batch payments, that peak. A lot of customers lay and standing order in for the first of the month to do their household payments and so on, I think. And we see a peak at the 25th of July, and that peak is after the salary payment. So you can use your salary to do your payments, to pay your bills, etc., etc. Special attention also for the weekends. The 2nd of July is a Saturday and the 3rd is a Sunday. and you actually see a lot of payments, a lot of users lay in payments also in the weekend, and they're executed, of course, directly. We thought we would see a bit of a change from the week to the weekend of payments, and we now seeing that a little. So the weekends are coming up. Definitely 24/7, and definitely the new normal there. Forgot to say this all are interbank transactions. You have the on-us payments too, of course. And I think the on-us rate in the Netherlands is about 50%, 40 to 50%. So in total, you will have around 1 million mobile and internet banking initiated payments. What does a day look like? From July I've taken 2 days. The day with the highest volume, that was the 1st of July, as you saw. And I've taken the day with the highest peak, and that was the 27th of July. The highest peak, to start with that was 65 TPS average per minute. So we took out the peaks that you will probably see for little hampers. It might go further up. So this is average per minute, but there are the transactions per second. When you look at the 1st of July, you see from 3 o'clock till 5 o'clock, you see 50 TPS. Now, what kind of payments are that? And those are those standing orders I talked about. So 1 or 2 banks use that infrastructure to drip their standing orders to the infrastructure. For doing that, we have 2 extra requirements. First, as I said, you have to have that dripping mechanism. The total capacity of our system is 250 TPS. And we looked at the volumes of the bank. As Dutch Payments Association, we could do that. We could ask the banks to give us their figures. And then we gave back to the bank a maximum of TPSs they are allowed to put into the system. So perhaps in this case, this bank has 60 or 70 TPS at its available and uses 50 TPS to process their standing orders. That's our one-on-one payments, and maybe they also took some small batches and feed it to the infrastructure. So they're using the capacity of the system in the morning, when it's not used for the normal payments, to do that kind of payments. And that's completely up to the banks. Some banks do, some banks don't. Then you see the daily pattern. Starting at 6 in the morning, people already start to pay. And that evolves until peak at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, just after coffee time, the coffee break, I think. And then it smoothens into the evening and night. But also late at night at 11 o'clock, there are still people doing payments in this new normal situation. Yeah, that's a different day. In March we had a benefit gala for the Ukraine on television, and people were asked for to donate for the war in Ukraine, for the people there. And yeah, you saw a peak of 70 TPS on 9 o'clock that night. Probably was a good speaker at that point. And yeah, so you can see that the pattern can change and on customer behavior. Now the dark side of payments, the R messages. How are we doing there? Well, we're doing very good, I think. of those 40 million transactions in July, we only had 22,000 rejects our messages. That's 0.057% of the total volume. And that's compared to, you could compare that to SCT. When you would have put those payments on the SCT infrastructure, you would have the same amount. The highest peak, the AC04 code, that's the account number is closed. And so an SCT would have been rejected and an SCT inst also would have been rejected. The other ones, AC01, that's an incorrect account number, and AC06, that's a blocked account. So all would also be rejected if it was an SCT. When you look at the specific R messages, the timeouts, etc., those are very low. This was a very good month. I would say that again, but we never went over 0.1% of our messages. Yeah, when we look at cross-border, that's another situation. We see a reject rate there of 4% sometimes. What's that due to? Domestic, we don't have to do sanction screening, and when we do cross-border transactions, you have to do screening. When you have a screening hit, you have to investigate that transaction, and most of the banks don't have the systems and don't have the time to do that within the 10 or 20 seconds they have for that. So when there's a hit, the first response is rejected. So those are rejects. Also, we see that some banks that have adhered to the scheme, but not have opened all their accounts for instant payments, or there must be something extra done to get that account credited, and they don't have the time to do that, so they also reject it. So it's definitely not the new normal there. Yeah, you want to have these SCT insta transactions processed as flawless as for the SCT. I think for the screening, there will come a solution. The European Union is at this point working on that. The solution, I think, will be that when you write up a new customer, you have to have your KYC procedures very good in place. So you have your entry blocked, and you have to do your screening of all your clients to the screening list every day. And then the transaction is between two trusted and two controlled customers, so you don't have to do online screening anymore. That would be welcomed by us, of course. Well, it's running smoothly, but that also has to do with some measures we took on the background. We have some technical features in place. When a bank is not available, we haven't seen the bank on the infrastructure for some time. Pings are exchanged, so you can see whether the lines are open and everything is in order to exchange payments. We have the CSM, and some banks have reject monitoring in place. So if you have more than normal amount of rejects, there goes an alarm bell, and we can investigate what's going on there. And of course, some of the major systems are redundant, so we can do maintenance without shutting the system down. It's 24/7 available, and also that's the case at the larger banks. As said, we do Production monitoring. The diagrams I showed is an example of that. Volumes and peaks, we follow them, and we have forecasts every year to see whether our 250 TPS is still enough, and whether a bank needs more TPSs as their share of that 250 TPS. We have incident management procedures in place. When a bank has an incident, it's expected that they do a broadcast of that, so that the other banks are informed of what's going on with the bank. What are the expectations? Are you out for half an hour, or are you out for only a few minutes? They have to broadcast that so that the other ones know what's happening. The system for that is our system. We use Connect for that. Next to that, we have escalation procedures when there's really something going on and customers are noticing that there is a struggle in the infrastructure. We get on the telephone, we discuss what should happen, and and come to a solution together. Incident handling. When a bank has an incident and the CSM can put it on not available, so all transactions upfront will be rejected by the CSM. So the system is not overflown with transactions that can't be processed. And banks have queues in place for that. So when a transaction is laid in, the banks can hold that transaction for a while if agreed with the customer. So if the customer says, no, this payment should be done directly, it will be rejected. But if the customer agrees, well, it's more of a pay and forget situation, then the bank holds the transaction and resend it later on to the system. And when the incident when we have a severe incident, the bank can always choose to redirect to the SCT infrastructure or use TIPS, because all banks are now reachable via TIPS also. So they have a second line to do these instant payments. Smooth restart. When there's a large incident and there are large queues, a bank can be overthrown by those instant payments coming to them. So we can make arrangements that a smaller bank start to resend those transactions, and then the larger bank if everything goes smoothly after the incident. What was very welcomed by the consumer organizations and coincidentally came together with instant payments was confirmation of pay. So when you lay in a payment order, you will see whether the payee name is checked against the IBAN, and when it's not alike the name of the payee, the first message is, "Are you sure?" Because we can't relate this payment to the name of that payee to that IBAN. Are you sure? You can go on with that payment, or you can reject the payment, stop the payment, and call the other party. Am I correct? Is this your IBAN? But do you have another name or something, or a business name is different than I would expect? And yeah, of course, that helped us accepting instant payments, because there was a little fear by the consumers. And my money is instantly going to another account, and if it's a fraudulent payment, it will be handed to other accounts and other fraudulent persons in seconds, and it won't be easy to investigate where that money has gone anymore. So that was a comfort for the consumer organizations. We had to do a check of all our national arrangements. For instance, our bank switch service. We are rerouting payments when someone has a new bank account from the old account to the new account as a service. And for instant payments, you have to do that instantly and that was not possible. So we had to do some kind of adjustments to that bank switch service. But in that way, we did go through all our national arrangements to also make them available for instant payments, because it's a new normal and it's a new way of paying in the Netherlands. Is it already the new normal for all Dutch banks? Well, on the dark blue side, we have our founding fathers. They definitely have instant payments as their new normal. They initiate instant payments. We have some new banks also adhered to the new Dutch banks adhere to the instant payment system and the Dutch way, so the 5 seconds and so on. Those are, for instance, Leaseplanbank. That's a savings bank. They don't offer payment accounts, but they are open for their savings accounts for incoming transactions. So you have your payment account at, let's say, ABN AMRO, and you do a payment to your savings account on at Leaseplanbank. Well, you couldn't do that if Leaseplanbank was not an instant payments. You couldn't do that on a Sunday. So the other banks would have an advantage in there. So that was their driver to go to instant payments, to have that possibility to feed your savings accounts on Saturday, on Sunday, and also get interest from that day on. Another bank was Volkswagen Bank, also unexpected, but yeah, when you want to buy a car on Saturday, you want to do the payment and you want to see the money coming in. So yeah, when you think of it, it's business logic for them. Triodos Bank and Bunk Bank, those are new banks and challenger banks. So when they saw that the founding fathers have introduced instant payments, they want as soon as possible also use this infrastructure for their payments. And to a little bit strange banks, NWB Bank and BNG Bank. NWB Bank is the bank for our water authorities in our country. Very important for the Dutch to keep our feet dry. And the BNG Bank, that's for our local authorities, the bank. And what's their business case, you would say? Couldn't quite see it. I think it's a bit the same as for the tax office. They wanted to receive their clients to be able to pay on every day of the week and on every moment. What also helped is that their vendor was very eager to introduce instant payments for their clients. So that helped. I think they got a great deal. The other banks, those are the larger European banks that have and also have a Dutch BIC, and because they connected to, they adhere to instant payments, also that BIC must be available for instant payments, but they, of course, choose TIPS as their connection system. So now Rabobank can do an instant payments to, let's say, a client at Société Générale. And that's a situation that started only in 2022. You had a situation in the Netherlands where, for instance, Bunk is connected via EBE Clearing, and Rabobank is connected via Worldline to the instant payment environment, but they couldn't reach each other. They were not the interoperability was they were not interconnected yet. But now there's TIPS. Bunk routes their transactions to Rabobank via TIPS. What do we see? What's the time?
Time is up. Time for a question now.
Oh, okay. I want to talk to you a little bit more about the future. You can see that, I think you can see that on the slides. We want more bill payments, I think, on the infrastructure. We want to migrate as ideal to SAT Inst and support all kind of initiatives that are at hand. You can see this on the website of the EPC, so I won't go further in that. But I think this one is important. What we see is that legislation is coming on in the European Commission. Instant payments may become mandatory and on a short term for all European banks in the EU, that is. What it will it be receiving or also sending? That's to be decided, but I think it will certainly come. And some examples of, I think we have the momentum at this point. Everywhere in the world there are new instant payments developments. I heard that the faster payments, one of the early instant alike systems, is now already phased out, and England is building a new instant payments infrastructure from scratch. So the first one is an old one again. So thank you for that, and now it's question time, I think.
Yes, thank you very much for this interesting insight. Please come over to me.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thomas, are there any questions to our expert?
Since Carla told me to be very sharp in time, I tried to summarize most of the questions. And most of the questions are regarding what is the business value for the banks?
Well, that's of course that's up to the banks. I think from a single bank perspective, there is, and you add up the figures, the investments they would make, will they earn that back, and how will they do that? I think they can't calculate that. You must see that as a whole. You must see that as their contribution to the Dutch economy. That new normal, and those benefits are enormously. And it's also a bit of keeping the big ones out, the big techs, that's also part of that business case, to stay in business and to be ahead of competition. But when you do the calculations, yeah, maybe the Dutch banks can increase their 40 euros to 50 euros, but that will be it. There's not much growth to get from that.
Another question?
Are there different price tags on the transactions during the day, during the weekend?
No. Then you would have the new normal. It's when a payment can be done instant, it will be done instant. So if a bank is reachable, it will go out. No extra pricing. It will go out as an instant payment. That's the new normal.
Okay, and the last one, on the POS, is there any use of instant payments towards the merchants?
There is an initiative in the API for having instant payments on the counter, but I don't know the exact status of that. I think they want to build an exact copy of the cards use cases, where we are thinking more of an QR-based or something like that kind of solution, a request to pay kind of solution at the banks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your visit.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
so
for having
nice.
me. Thank you.